Welcome to the channel, I'm Sam the Ashen, and today we're going to go through 15 of the V Blood bosses in V Rising. Most of these bosses are in Chapter 2. I'm going to show you my fights with the bosses and throw in any tips that I might have, and I'm also going to show you the majority of my journey through Act 2. With that out of the way, let's on some bosses. First up was Pelora the Feywalker. She's an illusion V-Blood, so she gives you one of the illusion spells once you beat her. She's not too bad. I was using this rock in the fight to block most of her attacks, which made it really easy. I also highly recommend fighting her at night because there's not a lot of shade from the sunlight if you fight her during the day. Also, I would recommend using a spear if you have a decent one because it does bonus damage to creatures and most of her illusion spells are creatures. After the Feywalker, I tried my hand at Quincy the Bandit King. He wasn't too tough, but with all his tantrums running around destroying everything, you don't really have any shade from the sunlight. The Fallen V-Blood was pretty tough. My best strategy was to circle around avoiding the skeletons while using spells on him. It's definitely a test of endurance. As long as you're patient though, you should be able to beat him. The gear system plays an important role, so taking the time to upgrade even one little thing can make a big difference in any given fight. A good example is Quincy the Bandit King. After I made a small upgrade in my gear, it made the fight much more manageable, even fighting him in the daylight. And a tip for this fight is when he does his charge attack, if you can lead him into any of the building structures, he gets a stun cooldown and you'll have a few seconds to wail out on him. Now with Quincy defeated, Act 1 was complete and it was time to move on to Act 2. I apologize for this, but this is the last fight with no in-game audio, so you won't have to deal with that anymore. Anyways, with Vincent the Frostbringer, he was pretty tough at first until you learn his moveset. He does a charge attack over and over again when he enters his rage mode, which is kind of hard to avoid, but you're always going to be fighting him out in the environment, so use that to your advantage. Trees break down too easily, but if you can find a big cluster of boulders, that works really well to be able to avoid his attacks easily. Christina the Sun Princess beat the living out of me the first few times that I fought her, so I had to gear up some and come back before I could fight her again. Obviously, it didn't help that I had a bunch of other people ganging up on me with her, but still, she is one of the hardest bosses that I fought in the entirety of Act 2. Now, when I was going into the mines to get some iron, things got pretty interesting. The Bright Archer and the Undead General apparently don't really like each other, so if they happen to bump into each other while you're in there, they will fight, and obviously one of them has to win. So if you can bide your time, you can actually basically get a free V-Blood and hopefully get the other one damaged enough to take them out too, which was what happened to me, luckily. So that was an awesome 2-for-1 V-Blood special that is available in the Iron Mine. Next up for me, which was long overdue, was the Putrid Rat. It's in Act 1, and all you need is some grave dust and a couple unsullied hearts, and it's all yours. And it unlocks a pretty sweet ability, which is turning into a rat, which actually works for not getting detected by enemies. The Putrid Rat isn't very tough. Sometimes it goes into the ground and splits off into other rats, but the fight is not bad. I would do it outside your base, though. That one I got pretty close. And then on this one, I got a little more ballsy, and you can see that it definitely works. If you were in any other form, you would absolutely be seen. Now this golden V-Blood fight is actually my favorite fight that I've had so far in the game. This bad mofo is walking around early game, you know not to mess with him because of the skull, and when you fight him finally, it's like an anime fight. It is absolutely awesome. And you unlock the Greatsword, which I'm a huge Greatsword fan. I always use Greatsword in any game that I can, especially Souls games. I'm slightly disappointed with the skills that you get with the Greatsword, but overall, it's still amazing to have. Next up is the Grandma from the Little Red Riding Hood. She was a absolute cookie. As long as you don't rush into the village and get everyone on you with the little town crier guy that rings the bell, it's not a bad fight at all. I recommend getting into fishing pretty early. It's necessary for oil. While I was doing that, I happened upon a 99% rogue blood, which isn't my favorite, but it's still 99%, by far the highest I've gotten so far. So needless to say, I snatched it up pretty quick. And luckily, I was able to Utilize it in time for the Sun Priestess fight, which was one of the hardest fights in the game, and it helped out a ton. So also having a good blood type is obviously very important. Now some tips for her when she shoots that attack that spreads out 5 prongs. You can run sideways and then stop at the last second to pretty much always miss it. And also utilize the terrain in your favor and also stop her from healing. Next up was the Dark Servant. She was also one of the toughest fights in the game. There were several times where I had to just bail because I hadn't learned her moveset yet and I was just getting caught up and almost dying each time. So I had to go, retreat, and come back several times. She spawns the minions, which are hard to keep away from. They're really fast. And she heals by absorbing one of the minions to her, which you have to destroy if you don't want her to heal. And she also has pretty much a non-stop barrage of attacks. Once you learn her moveset and everything, it is slightly easier, but you pretty much have to go balls to the wall the entire time to even have a chance with her. Stop her from healing and keep moving is your best bet. I would highly recommend using the Corrupted Skull attack, at least for the bosses, because it spawns a skeleton minion up to 4 if you can kill someone with it, up to 2 if you just shoot them with it, and that helps take the aggro off of you. Bane the Shadow Blade wasn't too bad. As long as you keep your distance and stop him from stunning you, you should be fine. The Corrupted Skull helps a lot with this fight, as well as pretty much any other fight. Splitting aggro is huge. For the Shadow Priestess fight, also a really tough fight. The Corrupted Skull helps a lot, again, to take the aggro off you, and make sure to use your Iron Scythe if you can, because it does 25% bonus damage to her, because she and her minions are undead, so that helps out a lot as well. And the E attack, the Spinning Scythe attack, is awesome for this. Next up is the Geomancer, which was a really weird fight. It's a really high level fight and supposed to be pretty difficult, but honestly, as long as you go at nighttime, the fight is really easy because of how slow they are. They don't have any range attacks except for the Stomp attack, which you can easily avoid. So keep your distance, take out the minions because you can't hurt the main one until the minions are defeated, and then kill her once she turns back into her human form and you're good to go. Just look out for the Iron Golem that patrols around the area because it's a much higher level. As you can see, I tried to mess around with the big Iron Golem and it did not turn out well. I didn't die, but I definitely would have if I hadn't gotten out of there. He's not worth it. You can also see I tried to fight the Geomancer in the daylight and that did not work out well either. There's basically no shade to hide from the sun in, so it's way better to just wait for nighttime. After finally unlocking the study, I had a ton of books saved up, so I was able to research a huge chunk of items in the study table, which felt really nice to go ahead and upgrade some of my stuff to Merciless, and also get some new armor to Merciless. Upgrading this stuff was really satisfying, and getting my gear level up and getting ready for Chapter 3 was exciting. Alright, that is it for the video today. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, leaving a like or a comment helps me out a lot. And if you want to see more from me, subscribing to the channel is a great way to do that. If you have any tips for any of the bosses, leave them down in the comments. Someone will see it and it will help somebody. Again, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Have a good one.